I had an idea the other day about how to incorporate AI in different use cases than what we've been seeing a lot of lately. And I had an idea on how to use ChatGPT as a specific task management assigner. So if you struggle with trying to be on top of your tasks and prioritizing what you need to accomplish, then this might be the video for you. Let's get to it. Hey, how's it going? This is Eric with Solve Cycle Solutions. If you're new here, I help save people time by eliminating the tasks that they hate with no code and automated solutions. And in this video, I'm going to be discussing and exploring an idea I had about how you can use AI to pick the tasks that you need to do based on priority and deadlines without having to mix up and make decisions for yourself to make sure you're staying on top of all the important tasks that you need to get done in a day. But before we get started, I want to invite you to a free consultation. I understand that trying to take the time to learn these no-code solutions and AI solutions can help save you a lot of time, but they can be daunting if you are just getting started. So why don't you just spend a 30-minute call with me and we can figure out what the best solution is for you in terms of starting or even implementing some automation solutions. It's again, free 30-minute consultation, no strings attached. You can sign up in the description of this video or by the QR code somewhere around my head. And once you sign up as early as the next day, you can see how much time you can save in just 30 minutes. All right, so now that we have that housekeeping out of the way, let me give you a little background of why I started thinking about this automated solution. So to see if this helps make sense for anyone else. So let's hop into my screen, and this is my actual real daily dashboard that I try and focus on for work. I believe I talked about this in a separate video with having my task manager set up as a form that I can submit in the morning. And this was working for me for a long time, and even when I made that video, I was still using it. But since that point, there's been a couple of different things that have made it a little more difficult for me. Lots of travel and some last minute work things that have just come up that have made it hard for me to constantly go in every morning and pick the tasks that I want, because I've been so busy. I've actually been just picking the first three things that I see and start attacking that, not really thinking or having the time to digest what is important or what are the priorities that I want to get done based on a wide variety of deadlines. And even then, I will admit, there are certain times where I know there's something that's very important that I need to get done, but I don't, because there are easier tasks that I want to just go ahead and knock out of the way that may not be as big a priority, but it helps me just get that done right away. So I started asking with what is wrong with my morning task form. And this is something that I actually want to try and start implementing a little bit more, is not just creating an automation and showcasing that to you and thinking that that's just done. These tools are basically living operations and procedures that you have in your business. So it's important to make sure that you're doing updates as things change, whether that means you have new software that you're implementing, or maybe you have to hire someone and bring them into the process as well. There's a wide variety of things that you can do, but the most important thing is to make sure that you recognize that these are not one and done solutions, that they do require a little bit of upkeep and sometimes a little bit of redesign, and that's perfectly okay. Because if it makes you more efficient, that's the goal of these automations. So again, the client projects for me were not working as well. I realized I shouldn't probably open that and show that on the video here. But I also realized there were just some other processes that I was doing that were making things more obstructive and not as streamlined as I had hoped. So the main question is, if we want to have something, in this case, it's going to be AI, how do we collect all of the tasks that are a priority for us, send them to AI, and then have AI pick the tasks and assign it to us in SmartSuite. It's a lot of information that we're going to be going over, but once you get this set up, it actually I don't think it's going to be that difficult for you. So let's get started. And what I have done is I've gone ahead and built a model inside of my test zone. So I have what will be a daily task tracker here that we can build our own specific monitor widget here. And then we also have the example, in this case, it's example projects because I've used these in previous videos, but I'm going to turn this into my own task tracker. Or just task list here. This is going to be we have 3 clients that we're looking at here: SolveCycle, Bob's Burgers, and Strickland Propane. One thing I want to clarify in how I am setting up these criteria that I'm about to discuss is that this is completely my own system that works for me. This is not a one-size-fits-all solution, so keep in mind that you will need your own system, but this is going to have a couple of different criteria that I want to prioritize. And the main thing that I'm going to be using is what's called the Eisenhower Matrix. The Eisenhower Matrix, if you're not familiar, was created by US President Dwight Eisenhower. And basically there's a quote of him saying something along the lines of this particular grid that is now set up where it says, if something is important and urgent, I do that now. If it's important but not urgent, I schedule it to work on it later. If it's not important but urgent, I delegate that to someone else. And if it's not important and not urgent, I don't do it. Now, I'll include the link to the blog that I found this on called From the Blog Relay, because it's a very useful image, but it should be a very helpful guide if you're not familiar with that. Now, the thing that I want to show you with my tasks is that I have that main criteria for priority for me is probably going to be one of the most important next to status. So status, obviously, I'm wanting to make sure I know what is currently being worked on, what may be recurring tasks, but also I want to make sure I'm not looking for information that has review or complete, meaning that this is something that I don't have to be looking at right now, or something that I shouldn't have to be assigning to myself again right now. With the priority, I set up each part of the grid matrix, and I will say there are some things where it is not that I say this is not important and not urgent, meaning that I delete it or remove it, but it is that it basically just gets pushed to a shelved long-term project, or I will have someone else get to that if I need to. And then for important and not urgent, I tend to use this to mean that it's important for my business, so I'm going to get that done. Urgent, not important is going to be client work that I am doing. So these are things that have urgency that I need to take care of myself. And then obviously important and urgent means that these are things that could be both for clients and for myself that have a very immediate deadline that need to get done basically today. I also have a due date here. Then this is basically just using as a barometer to see how much time we have to work on projects. So this could affect whether something becomes important and urgent, or if it stays not urgent but important, etc. We also have a link here to our daily task tracker. And then the other criteria that you can't see in this particular view is that I have all of my clients categorized. So there are sometimes clients based on whether it be my own business here, like SolveCycle, or there are some clients that I might have higher priorities for because sometimes they pay more than others. And so I want to make sure that the ones that pay me consistently and pay me well are also the ones that I am trying to make sure I'm delivering for them so that I don't risk upsetting that cash flow, for lack of a better term. So basically, we have all of these items here. I'm going to go in and add a couple more deadlines here. So you can see I've set some deadlines for projects previously completed. I may actually just leave that blank for on deck, but then I might set something for next week and set this as for Saturday. And then also just as a thing to keep track of during the course of this video, the official date for the time of this recording is August 8th. And so everything is going to be based around that time, because we're going to be trying to make this task tracker for today and try and experiment a little bit for maybe even trying to see like what works for tomorrow, or maybe move some of the dates around. So this is the core of what we want to do. And then everything else we're going to be able to build inside of make.com. So let's hop over there right now. Inside of Make, I'm going to go ahead and just name this example task assigner. And what we're going to do is we want to look first inside of SmartSuite. And normally I set things up with mail hooks, or I set things up to be a reaction to a certain task being completed. But in this case, we want to set up what's called a polling trigger that will be done every morning that will then send the tasks that I need to prioritize. And we want to look through a large amount of data. So in this case, I'm actually going to search find records. And if you don't have SmartSuite set up inside of Make, you will need to integrate that with this account by logging in. It's pretty straightforward. I've done this in other videos as well. But basically, I'm going to go to the test zone. And from there, we are going to go into example task. The first thing that we need to ask ourselves in this situation, since it says search by field, well, what are we looking for when it comes to the specific criteria? Because we're not necessarily trying to collect the very specific items that meet all the criteria first. We just want to collect all of our active tasks. So the unfortunate thing is that if I were to click status, it only goes by one search value. We may be able to try and use the OR function here. So I'm curious, let's just try this. So I'm going to look over back on my task screen. So we have in process, we have recurring. So let's set this up and see if we put in recurring and then put an operator of OR and say in process. We may have to set quotes here. And this is more of I am genuinely curious what's going to happen here, because I don't know if we're going to be able to have this successfully work or not. I'm just going to hit OK. And let's hit run this module and see. Yep, and came back failed. So let's try this. Let's just do recurring. Also, let me make sure that I'm spelling that right. Okay, so we have the recurring pulling up, and you'll see that on this particular status, we had 4 bundles, so 4 records, and I can just quickly at a glance look at that. So let's try this as recurring or in process. Let's add the space there, and let's hit run this model. So it looks like it's only going to do the in process. In this case, there are lots of different ways to figure out how you want to collect this information. I'm going to go with the easiest way just to get this process going, and I will probably make a checkup video on this in the future. So I will share ways that I've modified this later, just because, again, this is more kind of a little more loosey-goosey of a video trying to figure out how we can make this work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a yes/no field here, and I'm going to make this submit to AI. And so we're going to have this anytime a task is marked, and you could absolutely set this up whenever a status is one of these criterias of in process, recurring. You could have this submit be updated and make sure that it's removed for anything that is on deck or completed. That is completely one way we can go about doing this. So I've gone ahead and toggled on all these things. Let's go back in here. I'm going to refresh my fields. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the test zone here. And let's go by AI. Here we go. Submit to AI. And then I'm going to hit true, because this is basically saying that if the check mark is listed, it is a true false situation. And you can set a limit. For now, I'm going to set this to 50. I know this is more than what we have in the tasks, but you can basically have this set up to find at least 100 records here. So let's go ahead and try this. I believe we should have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, and 8. There we go. All right. So we have 8 modules or 8 records that we should find in this record search function. So let's run this again and see what comes up. And it looks like we do have, 8 modules. Perfect. The next step that we want to do is the goal here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up to show you the specific modules. I'm going to kind of build out what we want after that, in between these. So the goal is we want to take these records and submit them into ChatGPT here. And basically we want to have 3 specific commands that then go and create a new record inside of our daily task tracker here. Because this is going to be in the grid view where every day this record will be created, and we can pin the 3 just titles of the tasks that we want to go directly to this specific daily record. So this is just the 3 basic frames of the module, but there's obviously more that we need to get set up. So you see that we have a series of bundles with lots of different criteria that we want to feed into ChatGPT. We don't necessarily need to put all of this information here in one big, in multiple different modules to be feeding it into ChatGPT, because that's going to try and analyze each task once instead of compiling it all at the same time in one message. So what we can do here is we want to aggregate all of these answers. We want to compile them. So let's pull up what's called the text aggregator. So inside the text aggregator, you'll see that basically we have all the information that we want from the SmartSuite records, and we can map this into a long string of text that we can then feed into ChatGPT. So in this case, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and create identifiers for the specific fields that we're trying to extract from all of these bundles. So in this case, I'm going to take the task title and I'm going to kind of map that together, add a comma, and from there I'm going to be able to put in other information that I want, priority, and then I can also put in due date, and I can map that again from this exact same field. And then the last thing I can put in is client. So let me take a look here. So we can put link to example CRM here. And so this, in a sense, should take all of those bundles that we had, and then we can then run this. So let me just unlink this first. I'm going to run this once, hit run anyway, and let's see what happens. So as you can see, it just has a long list of where it says task, maintenance, priority, important, not urgent, due date is listed, client, Strickland, propane, and then it also has task. So one other thing looking back at this that we probably need to get set up is some sort of divider as well. So we can put in, let's put in a semicolon here. It's basically, we want to have a very specific code that we want to feed into ChatGPT so it knows when the tasks are breaking new lines basically for this particular code. Now, additionally, we can set up a filter here. So if we want to make sure that certain things are going through that aren't necessarily important or active, we can kind of just block that out as well. So if you wanted to set up something where the status is not equal to complete or complete, and we can leave that here. We could add additional rules here. So we also want to make sure that anything that gets pulled up that may have accidentally been marked as feed into AI, we could remove the priority, or even put in the due date. We want to make sure that this is, in this case, hit the wrong button there. We can go down and filter out specific dates to say that this is later than, or let's say equal to today. So we only want to make sure that we're looking at things in the ahead of us, not necessarily things that are in the past. And that's, again, this is just an example. Obviously, you may want something to look at the deadlines or late tasks, but for now, we'll just leave that here. Let's run this again and see how many specific bundles were put in. So again, we had 8 bundles go in. Let's hit run anyway. I don't think there will be anything that changes, but it looks like we had 4 that got blocked. So great. So we had 4 that were filtered out. So this is, again, how you can start restricting some of the data based on the specific priorities that you want, if you're concerned about making sure that information is not being over-extracted or being overused inside the system. Now we have figured out how to extract and compile this information. So let's dial in next on how to make ChatGPT write the specific command that we want. Sometimes these things can be a little tricky. I will say I have been testing with ChatGPT on my own how to make a prompt that can work like this. So this is going to be a little bit more streamlined, but if you are having problems, there's a couple points I will actually try and showcase where I actually asked ChatGPT something, how to write this so it would understand. And so this may be something that may be useful for you as well there, but I will be sure to leave this description of the prompt in the comments section of this video below. So I figured it's just easier to talk through the prompt that I have that I will be putting into ChatGPT through Make. And it's a little complex, so I'm going to try and break it down as quick as I can. But the main things to know here is that I basically have the prompt or the scenario that I'm telling ChatGPT what's going on, the goal that I want it to help me with, and then I'm adding the guidelines and additional qualifiers that will help it prioritize the tasks that I want, because I have these 3 levels of priority that I'm assigning to it. So I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit here. Again, I will put this in the chat, so you should be able to see this a little bit better, or be able to read it for yourself. But basically, this is the initial prompt, or telling ChatGPT what the scenario is that I'm working on. In this case, it is my executive assistant, and I'm explaining that it has been hired to help me increase my productivity, and my goal is to increase task and finish more projects before their overall deadlines. And then here's the prompt that I say, I need you to pick 3 tasks for me that I need you to complete from my open list of tasks based on 3 criteria. These are the 3 criteria: due date, priority, and clients versus internal tasks. I then go into descriptions of specific rules that I want the ChatGPT to understand or pay attention to when weighing certain criterias. In this case, I gave an example of saying that something that has a date, in this case, something listed at 9 a.m. versus a task that is just generally listed as due on that day, the date takes higher priority over one with, the day with a timestamp has higher priority than just a due date with a day. So clarified how I am basing my priorities on the Eisenhower Matrix. And then I also clarified my internal solve cycle development work. So, and I emphasized here as well that I have one recurring client named, in this case, Bob's Burgers, that has a higher priority because they pay me on such a regular and recurring basis. And so I need to prioritize them for the specific task over the short-term clients in this case. So I also clarified that I've created a long string of tasks, and this is where we are taking that information that will be put out of the text aggregator, and we are breaking down how ChatGPT will be able to identify the specific formats that we have per each task. So in this case, I said I created a long string of all the tasks I need prioritized. Can you please review this information with the same criteria I presented at the start of this conversation and pick the 3 task titles I should complete today. Please note that each task is formatted with the specific criteria listed in the following format, with the brackets showing where the specific task information will be located. And this is where I put in, here's the model, put the task title, priority, deadline, client name. And then the one thing that I am trying to specify here, it says, please compile and extract the titles into a comma-separated list with no additional text. One of the big things that I was testing with ChatGPT on its own was that it would keep saying after every prompt I'd put in a bunch of different tasks, it would say, sure, here's the specific items. And really what I want to be able to do is take this list of tasks, break it down inside of Make, and be able to search for the specific items. So this actually took a while to get the exact prompt. And this is the specific phrase, please compile and extract the titles into a comma-separated list with no additional text, was what I had to actually ask ChatGPT to help understand what is the best way for it to understand the exact prompt that I am trying to have it use. So now that we have this prompt set up, I'm going to go ahead and copy this. Now there's a few other things that I'm going to be doing here as well. Specifically, I have an additional note indicating what day it is. So in this case, I'm going to say, I'm going to set this up here. I have actually just set up the ChatGPT 4.0. So this may be something that I haven't tested yet if it works well with the free account, but I assume you should be able to set this up as well. I believe I set this up as system, and I'm going to paste all this information in. And then I'm going to go in and say, down at the bottom here, it says, please note that today's date is now. So in this case, when we run this in a minute, it's going to know that today's date is August 8th. And it's going to react to all of these specific tasks. Go ahead and say that, that's fine. It's going to react to all the deadlines that we have for the specific tasks that we're looking for. So in this case, I have that. Then I want to double check one thing on the specific prompt. And then the last thing that I'm going to add here is just, here are all the active tasks I have in my task manager. And this is when we're finally going to map that text prompt from the text aggregator. So let's save this. We're going to hit OK. Oh, and then the other thing I forgot to do is we need to have max tokens. I don't understand, honestly, how this works with ChatGPT. I've been setting it up at just 300 because I think I've seen that's basically what the average is for most of these. So play around with that to however you want. But basically, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to unlink this, and I'm going to just hit run once. And so remember, we had 4 that were coming through here. So one task should be removed, and it ran and completed it. It looks like this did not go through properly based off this initial result. I want to try, I think I'm going to switch it to user. I always get these mixed up, so I don't understand. Again, there's a lot that I'm still trying to understand with ChatGPT that doesn't always make sense to me. So I'm a little confused why this is going the specific way it is. And you'll see here that we have the specific results that we're looking at. They were generated, which says fixing sales systems, video marketing, speaking with sales rep. So we got the results, which is great. So now that we have a specific list or a string of tasks that we need, let's break these specific items down and then we can find them inside of our database to map to our daily task tracker. So let's try, I want to try something because I actually don't know if this is going to work, and I'm very curious to see what happens here, because I thought initially I would have to break apart each task, but we may be able to just map this to the exact linked record that we're looking for. So let's test this. I'm going to go under, we have daily task tracker, and I want to double check something here. I think this should be an auto-generated title. Yep, yeah, so we can leave that blank. I'm going to hit status as I want to make it today. Due date is, we will say, I'm going to set the hour for today. In this case, I'm going to make it, I've been setting my times, my end day notifications to be 6 p.m. So I'm going to do the same thing here. And then from there, hold on. This is acting a little wonky. So I believe the work projects, let's double check this. The work project should be, yes, that's where everything is linking to. So let's just map the exact results here and hit OK. So there may be a way, this may save us a couple of extra modules inside of Make. So I'm going to just run this again, and let's see what happens here. Did that actually work? Oh man, that's fun. Catching my own surprise on this, if this worked. Because now I have a task. Yep, look at that. Every single thing that we just assigned is now set in that comma-separated list, and SmartSuite knows to map that all to the specific internal task record. So now, if I wanted to just have something that I could completely focus on using a dashboard, I can go create a grid sheet here, down, of course, at the very bottom here, or a grid view of the specific project that we're looking for, or we can do this for the specific task tracker that we want. I'm going to leave that here, but then I'm going to be able to filter this to the status being only today. And then I'm going to change the display here so that we can remove the deadline. And I just want to see the specific projects that we have. And in this case, I'm going to set it up so that we can see the specific items here. And this one apparently likes to think that it is today as well. So let's remove that, mark this as complete. And there we go. So this should save. And now what I'm able to do is I could have, again, all of my client projects and tasks set up beneath this particular widget, but I can just focus on the exact task that I want to create. And in this case, I'm able to look up the fixing systems, and I'm able to look in, see the notes that I have immediately. I can see what's important and mark that as complete, and do the same thing with the sales rep here. So this is pretty incredible. Like, I actually was thinking it would take a lot of extra steps, but didn't realize that we could do this in a more streamlined way, which again is absolutely fantastic. The last thing that I want to do, because in this case, I'm again making this a daily notifier as well for me. So I'm going to go back and use Android, which is what I initially set to send prompts to myself to fill out the form here. But basically, I'm just going to map this to my phone and say, hey, get started on work, review your tasks for the day. And then when I click on this, I can open up the URL to go to my daily task form from there. So this is pretty incredible how I can now take some of the harder decision-making bottlenecks that were holding up my own work from getting done and helping me try and reprioritize, not based on what I feel like doing or what I dislike doing, but just helping me focus more on what needs to be done here. So I am very excited to be testing this out in the next couple of months to see how this helps me. I actually am going to be trying to track how much this will improve or possibly not improve my productivity. So if you're interested in following this, feel free to stick around and subscribe, and you'll get notifications when I make that new video in a couple of months. And also, thank you so much for watching this. If you're here at the end, don't forget about my free 30-minute consultation I mentioned at the beginning of the video. And yeah, I also have this video over here or here, whichever way. I'm not that spatially aware of where I'll be on the video, but you may like this video that initially showed how I can set up the form that I showed you with fill out to assign tasks initially, but here I'll be able to pull up those tasks inside of fill out as well. So be sure to check that out. And if you have any other questions in the comments, please let me know. And thank you so much for watching. This is where I stop.